It's hard not to feel good about seeing this. I know Blue is our, bad guy here, but fucking Yuki, man. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Stoneface Reactions. Sorry, went mind blank there the moment I started talking. I'm Theta, and we are back with Infinite Ryvius. We have a couple of comments from last episode. First up, we got, from a couple of episodes, I should say. Apologies. We have a Master Detective from the Patreon, from the episode My Moment. The line about Ikumi pulling Koji along is an interesting one. Even though Koji is our main character, or our main or most main of our main character, Ikumi has all the traits of a conventional protagonist. He's likable, empathetic, a good pilot, always wants to do the right thing, doesn't come from money / is poor, and has some traumatic past. And in this episode, we see him essentially take on Koji's role in the Yuki / Koji conflict. I suppose Akumi's lightheartedness and strong sense of self make him feel like less of a main character, as that provides less room for an arc of personal growth. And he makes a good foil / contrast to our real main character, Koji. They are friends and both good guys, but Koji is a slightly more negative person and has a slight inferiority complex. Separate point, but there's an interesting piece of dialogue by Akumi when talking to Aoi about Koji. They're fortunate to even have parents. I don't know. I'm with you on that this show is very much an ensemble. Ironically, kind of makes me think about Gosensu-sama in that it feels like every grouping of characters is the main character, right? There are obvious side characters in... Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring up the board real quick while I'm thinking about it. In that, essentially everyone that's outside the groupings, these... I don't know about... obviously don't know about Purple. Mystery Purple Girl. Clearly feels like it's building towards a main character, but, everybody outside the groupings feels like the side characters, whereas everybody inside one of these, dome things I put up about character groups feels like they are the ensemble main characters of the groups. Like, the groups themselves could be the main characters, with every character inside that group, representing dissonant thoughts against themselves. I don't know. It's not what the intention is here, but you could consider every little bubble here to be a single person, and that every character within that person, every character within that bubble is a separate thought that a person might have, and then sometimes those thoughts go against one another. Obviously, it's not what's going on, but yeah, it's just a giant ensemble. I don't know what else to say. I've gone to a stupid degree for some reason. Um, Before we go into the board, though, what else? They're fortunate to even have parents. We don't exactly know who the person Ikumi couldn't save before. Because remember, they've mentioned back in the first episode, I believe it was, when there was a person behind the door trying to be saved, and then Yuki shows up and doesn't quite convince them not to save them, but stalls it out long enough that the person is no longer savable. The implication that, oh, not again, I believe Izumi says at some point. Or sorry, Ikumi says at some point. We don't know what happened there. It's either that Akumi's parents died before he was born and he never really had parents, or something happened that he wasn't able to save his parents, right? That's just the sensation I get from these two combined factors. As for Koji being pulled along, I don't know. That's when did the show come out? 1999? Something like that? Or early 2000s? that kind of era of anime protagonist, the Shinji get in the mech, as you were. So I don't really read a lot into that. It is an interesting note that these two characters feel pulled along because I kind of feel like when, God, what was his name? Miyabi? When Miyabi is having that conversation with Koji, that Koji's in a different place and like Koji is like almost insulting Miyabi about his connection with Nyx. And then Miyabi's like, "Aren't you the same way?" And then he's like, "Oh shit!" It's not a good revelation for Koji, but at least he doesn't go off the handle with it. So I kind of appreciate that element. All right, next up though, we have Sergeant Pepper, also from Patreon, from the episode Ring of Ryvius. Great reaction plus analysis of it. Sorry, I have something wrong with my throat today. Well, technically, something wrong with my throat every day. Great reaction plus analysis videos so far. I'm really enjoying them. One tiny thing to clear up is that Aoi has a crush on Koji, not Yuki, although she deeply cares for both as a close friend. In episode 1, Aoi was just upset as Yuki's friend was that Irina girl wouldn't appreciate some good qualities she believes Yuki has without realizing that it was her that was being dumped, not Yuki. In episode 3, some guy confessed his love to the girl who's obsessed with stuffed animals and got rejected in front of everyone. Aoi asked Koji to describe what he did, hoping Koji would do the same thing to her, only to be disappointed by the outcome. In this episode, Ichikawa Reiko, you probably want to add her to your board, senses something between Koji and Aoi and asks her if they are in a relationship. Aoi denies, but with a blush on her face. Later on, when Koji tries to put Feina on Aoi's team, Izumi Kozi goes, "Are you serious?" knowing Aoi's feelings towards Koji. However, Aoi quickly decides to welcome Feina onto her team, and Kozi gets surprised. I guess the first thing jumping out at me, Ichikawa Reiko, you probably want to add her to the board. I'm pretty sure she's been on the board the entire time. I mean, at least if not by... I mean, by the time of Ring of Ryvius, I think she's been on the board. Sorry, I'm forgetting where I would have put her. Where are... Oh, sorry, no, why it's confusing me. I've got her down as Raiko Ichikawa. You put her the other way, which, I don't know. I'm probably the one wrong here. I don't get the names right very often, especially when it's Japanese. So yeah, no, she's obviously when I'm putting the groups together, she's in the protagonist group. So anyway, the Aoi thing, I don't know. Obviously, it feels like I understand what you're saying about the connection between her and Koji, but I don't know if that connection is what I would think to be romantic or even interest, because I don't get the sense of that beyond childhood friend as well. Like, if you're familiar with Gundam, the way that Fra treats Amuro, obviously, maybe that's the example. Maybe that is the example. The way Fra treats Amuro is friend, almost like motherly, but then turns into like Fra is clearly interested in Amuro. So maybe that is the thing, that I'm not reading it past the initial friendship stage, but it is turned into the relationship that you're indicating, and I'm is just as dense as Koji is, and that I'm not reading it either. Because I do remember the stuffed animal girl confession thing, and then like, Koji, you idiot. Like, I wasn't picking it up either. It's like, because that didn't seem like the space to be giving a confession either, and I don't know what she was expecting Koji to say, because all he said is he described the situation that she asked him to describe. So I don't know. Otherwise, yeah, I've done more work on the board, which is to say, once again, I'm trying to add every character we've seen in the show so far. And of course, if I'm missing anybody, and I'm just like I said, Sergeant Pepper, you pointed out somebody you thought that I missed, didn't in fact miss them, but I appreciate that you pointed it out just in case. So the same way, if anybody thinks that I'm missing a character, point them out, and I guess even more specifically, tell me where they're at in the show, so I'll know, because otherwise it's real hard to put name to face. Kind of what I had to do here with the again proposal guy, or not proposal guy, the want to date you guy, and the two girls that hang out together. Not a lot of clear shots of those two girls, so I ended up having to like use a hallway scene. Not the greatest way because you don't see their faces or anything. So, and again, like when it comes to the Zwei group, I use inference to say, oh, like Brian Bob talks shit about Lucas, and so if push comes to shove, I don't know where Brian Brab stands on Lucas and vis-a-vis siding with him in an emergency, versus say Stein seems to back up Lukeson constantly, that kind of thing. That's what the lines represent. People who insult one another constantly get a white line, versus people who back each other up constantly get green lines. The Zwei crew is important because they kind of lead the ship as it is right now, so that's my setup to figuring out when shit goes down, how is it going to go down, and who's going to side with who. Otherwise, we do have a couple of crossing lines, like Gran and his whole the mecha thing. Everyone that he signed up, I've tied to Gran. Obviously, they're mostly white lines because most of those people complained about being there. What else? San actively beating up on Charlie. I decided to redline it. If I see somebody from the blue team beating up on Charlie, I'm going to give them a red line to Charlie. I actually think that Criff might actually... I don't know if she's honeypotting him or not. Because, like, when the emergency happened, like, the ship goes rocking and everything, she wrapped herself around him. Like, I don't know if that's just because he's the closest thing, or if maybe there might be something there. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's stupid. These guys might possibly be dead. I don't know if the ship that they're in is able to hold the radiation, since we've been implied that the radiation on Seer 3 and Seer 2 is so deadly. Also, they may have just been beaten to death by Team Blue, who the hell knows? And then everybody else's relationships. You know, naked guy right in, he's just wandering the halls naked, I guess. Fina's friend, Larry's friend, who also goes to the mecha thing. Creeper. The two people who are always in relationships and making out, and like every passing scene that we've seen, not really tied to anybody else. Same thing with these three, just not really tied to anybody else. And otherwise, I guess that's really it. Oh, I did tie Kiki to Izumi only because Kiki, I guess, throws the headpiece of her dinosaur at Izumi down the hall during the emergency. Not like they interacted with one another, just like, I don't know why she did that, but she did it. And now, of course, as always, I've got notes. I'm not sure why Koji says that once they get rescued, he won't have to see Yuki's face ever again. From the start of the show, they were living together. And by the fact that we flashed back to that house to see the mother's reaction to the news about what had happened to the station, their names are still on the front plaque, implying it is still their home address, which would leave me thinking that once they leave the school, it's the place they'd most likely return to. We've gotten 2 flashbacks now of Yuki beating up Koji, the glass door, and the school. showing that this has been going on for a long time. So if he wanted to get away from him, I'm not sure why this is the time he thinks he's going to do it. Devil's advocate here, and I hate to do it because Yuki is just the worst, but if Koji really did want to get away from his brother, like that statement at the beginning of the episode implied, then it feels like he could have just not gone to the same school as the guy. I say devil's advocate because Yuki's point of view seems to be that Koji is constantly following him around and interjecting in his life. If this path was so important to Koji, then it feels odd that the first thing he did when he got out of the house was to take off the tie and to dress himself down. If he didn't care that much, then he could have possibly pursued other paths. The only thing that makes me question that is the fact that Yuki doesn't seem all that enthused about this place either. I keep coming back to it, but he didn't even want to help with the repairs. Then again, he is the #1 pilot in the program, so I guess all we can do is wait to see more info on the subject. I guess circling back also the fact that Koji sucks ass at the navigation program too. It would imply that he really shouldn't be here, and it might actually be that he's following Yuki around. Again, my supposition that the reverse is going to be true at some point, that it turns out that Yuki is going to be the good guy, and that Koji is the asshole. But I just don't want that to be true, because again, Yuki is just the fucking worst. Occasionally, I do a breakdown of things I notice in the openings, just to see what the clues that they give us on what to expect next in the shows. I haven't done it for every show, but sometimes things just jump out at me while I'm reacting that I don't have time to go into. So this time, I thought what I'd do is sit down and just take some notes on what I saw. We've got Koji wandering the halls by himself. Noticeable trash is building up. A signal to the kids' ability to handle themselves, I guess. Yuki and Arena standing together in a hallway, facing away from each other, representing their distant and non-committal relationship. Also of note is the damage to the ship, where it seems like a chunk of it has been cut open and bent out of shape. When the camera zooms in, we also see that the walls are graffitied, just like with the trash, implying that things are breaking down behind the scenes. Our next shot is of the Y crew all together, with the obvious exception of Charlie, all in front of more graffiti. Of course, in the transition is Charlie sneaking off towards the Blue Gang. Something of note is that the graffiti surrounding them has much clearer English words on the wall. Dead, team, deceive, but spelled Dhceve, as though somebody who didn't know how to spell. I don't know, it could be Pat. Pat could be young enough not to understand. But that seems more like a clue. Also of note is that the zoom in is of blue grinning and purple girl's eyes glowing wide. I don't know if there is a relationship between Blue and the purple girl of some sort. Like, it felt like there might have been something about that when Blue was just hanging out outside the ship when they had all the pod things floating around. I guess maybe the opening could be referencing that, but I'm not exactly sure. Don't know at the moment. Going back to Koji, we see him gripping his right shoulder, which we had previously seen when Yuki ripped his shirt, that he has a scar going along it. I know I'm pointing at the wrong shoulder, but my push to talk button is this button, so I don't have much choice. Likely why we get Yuki suddenly looking back at this in the background and them walking away from each other superimposed on top of that. Aoi appears just after that superimposing shot in between where they were to then see reflections of herself in broken glass. A shot of her smiling face growing sad when she looks away from it. I imagine reflecting depression, that she's hiding beneath the surface. We have Akumi looking off into space, where we see what looks like a holographic dancing girl. He has previously stated regret towards not being able to save someone in the past, specifically when giving a "not again" introspection about not being able to save whoever was behind that locked door in the first few episodes. I don't know if there's anything behind the fact that the hologram is also mostly purple, and we have a mystery purple girl as well. We have Izumi walking. Izumi. Sometimes the I named people get me a little tongue tied. We have Izumi walking wet down a hallway carrying her shoes. It's clearly the hallway where everyone is living in, but it's covered in graffiti now too. I can't tell how she's gotten to that state. Nyx, Akihiro, and Raiko are also in the hall, but aren't reacting to her appearance enough to tell me if something is immediately wrong. Sudden shot of a gun, not informative beyond the fact that so far Blue is the only one with a gun. We've got Julie and Pat together, which is just a thing that is now. That Lukeson and Blue appear behind them is interesting, as I don't exactly know what is implied. If I was reading into it like an analogy, then maybe Pat is naive and needs to be guided by Julie, so that the way we've seen Luxon's desire to be in charge and his absence of ability to command is actually that naivete reflected in him, and he will likewise find himself guided by Blue. If not an analogy, then I'd consider them the two most likely to lead different groups on the Bratica, in which case I have no clue why they'd show Pat and Julia ahead of them in that shot. We then see Fina holding Rafra, with Koji watching her over his shoulder. Rafra climbs out of her arms and vanishes, to which she freaks out. If it wasn't for the fact that the other girls held and played with Rafra, I'd wonder if the implication was that Rafra was never real to begin with. The pessimist in me is only left to wonder if this means that Rafra is going to die. We get a bunch of cross shots, Koji and Aoi, Yuki and Blue, Oze alone, that transitions into what I think is Izumi yelling and falling away, possibly another death flag. Confusing shots of Mystery Purple Girl, hands firing light into the sky, Koji floating in space in front of Jupiter. We get a quick shot of Conrad, shot of Luxon leading his Y, Aoi flicking Koji's forehead, Izumi having a fit behind Oze, another shot of Yuki and Irina in the same room, not interacting. Just a lot of little things that could be interpreted as clues as to where the show is going, but I've experienced plenty of other shows that put little thought into their openings before. I'm going to move forwards with the hope that these things are indicative towards the psychological views of the characters and their interaction towards one another. But if it turns out to be nothing, then I guess I just won't be terribly disappointed either. So among the Zwei crew, we have two competent standouts. Julie is exceptional at making calls, talking to groups, and is stated that she's basically the valedictorian among the Zwei. And then we also have Kreis. He's the programming genius. They've stated that the Bratica controls are something different, but the rest of the Zwei say they wouldn't have figured it out if not for him. Plus, he uncovers the instructions for the mecha in the computer files just last episode, and the file he refers to having found in W86. So, most of the other people, I guess technically, if you think about it, Grand is also kind of standing out in that he's trying to take charge of individual programs. But I think Julie and Kreis are the ones to watch for right now. I wonder if Izumi is alright. She pulls her head out of a pot or something at the start of the episode, complaining about her neck. Then we see her in the foreground of another hallway scene, just holding her head. Doesn't help that at the end of the episode, while the ship is getting rocked, we see Kiki hit her from down the hall with the headpiece of her dinosaur costume. So I kind of just expect to see more Izumi stuff this episode, specifically related to if she's doing good or not. Head, neck stuff. So Gran gets himself assigned to the mecha that Christ just figured out the instructions to. And while he gave Hojo the cold shoulder right after, I had taken the words he said when he was in the hallways alone to imply that he was setting up an escape to save himself if things went south. But on rewatch, the only nefarious thing about it, really, was that he was saying it to himself. The actual text of what he said just reads more like he's upset about how dumb Hojo is at not seeing the need for a way off the ship than him actually being self-serving. That might be just me, recontextualizing Gran after the fact, but I'm hoping that's the case, because I really want this Y crew to, keep it together. Fiona is from Titiana, Uranus, and has to shower alone due to her doctrine, whatever that implies. I'm guessing very strict cleanliness codes. When she runs into Koji later, she is carrying a lot of cleaning materials. I mean, it could also be, for those of you familiar with the original Battlestar Galactica, there was the implication that, I can't remember who it was, their name. There's a character very specifically being ostracized by all the other people around her for basically being of one religion, which is major on one planet, which is kind of very sexual in nature. So it could be that sort of thing going on as well. I don't know. So, confirmation I was right about the dad thing. Back in episode 1's notes, I was talking about the plaque on Koji's house and how the dad's name wasn't on it. I even said that Koji later says his parents pay his way and not the singular parent. Might mean a divorce situation where the dad is still supporting the kids. Seems to be exactly what the clues are giving off. Because back then in episode 1, I was trying to guess if the dad was alive, a deadbeat, just out on his own. And then my last guess was that he was just separated, and apparently that's what's happening. And my last note here. So we see the two infiltrators go flying off in the sections of the Libra that break off from the Ryvius. I have to assume that if Blue's gang didn't kill them already, then there's a chance they could still be alive. It seemed like they may have been in a boarding ship, as it didn't look like the Libra Delta debris, and we'd seen it in a number of times in passing shots of the ship in station before. And Conrad says that they'll pick it up before leaving the area. I just don't know how deadly the Gadolt's radiation would be this deep. And they weren't wearing spacesuits like everyone else has been this deep, like Conrad and his crew. So, I don't know. It could also be an element that Blue has left a message on them. So, anything is really possible at this late stage. Not even a late stage, we're still early on. Anything is possible at this stage. But yeah, I've been rambling for quite a bit, giving off my notes from last time. So, yeah, literally nothing else to do but to hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
They've been talking about it for 2 episodes now.
80年前、最大級のウェーブ、つまりゲドルトフェノメンが起こった時、地球はバンアレン帯を強化することに対処したが、南半球17億の人間という代償を
Okay. Just didn't mention that fucking thing before.
皮肉にも 太陽系全土に広がったゲドルトのエネルギーが人類の宇宙進出を加速度的に早めたそうだ。少なくとも甲虫誌の教科書にはそう書いてあった。でも想像すらしてなかった。ウェーブのただ中に俺たち
Okay, wait, who's the narrator?
想像できるわけないじゃないか。これから起こる未来のことなんて。
Alright, green-haired girl just smirking at this. I'm constantly pointing out that Blue is the only one with a weapon. To be fair, it wouldn't take a lot for a bunch of people to swarm him, but it also seems like Blue's gang is the only one who's able to, like, fight. You know, as per their group being the main ones that took out the infiltrators, the reason why they even have a gun to begin with. But yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna easily take the Zwei crew out here. Literally, it's all of the nerds. Sorry, I said Zwei, I meant Blue. It's all the nerds of the Zwei group, which wouldn't even, like, stand up to them about their own housing. And what, 5 randos? Well, technically, 3 of them are from our main characters. Maybe Yuki, but I don't think even Yuki is gonna do it. Like, Yuki's combative, but Yuki is combative about Koji. And then when talking about Koji. Like, she's not listening to music now, is she?
なんで開かないんだよ。もしもし、寝てるんですか、ルクスン君。いい加減に起きなさい。
So I took over the bridge and locked everyone out.
なんだと。なんか偉いことになってるな。リヴァイアスはどこを航行してる？言えってんだよ。ゲドルトの中です。震度は
Kind of a rare condition where training your body is more important than your mind, I guess.
ここは我々ツバイの管轄だ。早く退出してまえ。俺に命令する。
あなた方はわからないかもしれないけど、今は非常事態なの。
知ってるよ全部。なあチャーリー。チャーリー？チャーリー。チックたちを締め出したのもお前か。
This is definitely an episode I would call a turning point.
黙ってるのは良くないと思って。だってみんなも事情を知る権利があるはずだよ。少なくとも僕はそう思うな。
ビビっただけだろ。
悪くなんかないよチャーリー。みんなのためにやったんだから。
Yeah, never mind. This is very clearly manipulation.
あいつリヴァイアスを浮上させろ。今すぐだ。無理言うな。ウェーブに流されているんだ。操船システムのソリッドもまだできていない状況なんです。急げ。救助を受けたくないのか。
Maybe explain to them that they're being attacked. Yeah.
あんたら教えてくれないんだもん。知らせたらパニックになるわ。みんな救助が来ると思って待ってるのよ。私たちは考えられる最善の努力をしたの。お願い、分かって。
そうなんだ。全員で生き残るためなんだ。何が全員の命だ。お前らリベールにいた奴らを見殺しにしただろ。
避難させたんじゃ。
The guys you've been beating the shit out of?
しかも相手は殺人者だ。我々の安全を考えれば。
Also, Charlie was responsible for that. You said.
お前人の命を何だと思ってんだ。殴らないで。取り組み止めるな。よし、今だ。
Yeah, again, these guys are like fucking combat experts. Although I am glad to see Yuki get his ass kicked. It's been a long time coming. If only I knew how those guns worked, I'd know exactly how bad the threat was.
下に残ってわかんないわ。
向かいのみやびですけど、いくみくんいますか？
いないけど、まだ帰ってないの？
うん、相葉くんも。ごめんなさい。ありがとう。
フージがいない？アイナと一緒だったりして。そんなことないない。あいつに
I mean, technically, he literally is.
人ですかね。ただの事実でしょ。聞こえてるわよ。
お前らロボットのパイロット候補だろ。操縦訓練は引き続きやってもらう。いいな。
チャーリー、お前そんなことまで。あんたなんでここにいるんだ？
いや、たまたまいるだけで。
お前じゃなくて後ろの子に聞いてんだよ。
ブスじゃんね。
そうかな。
ほら。
名前は
Charlie, not the time.
一つ聞いていい？
あ？
浮上してどうすんの？
知るがよ。
さ、思うんだけど、ゲドルトの気流に乗って流されれば敵から逃げられると思うんだけど。
どこ行くかわかんねえだろバカ。
いいえ、進路は予想できます。
本当か？
はい。操船ソリッドを組んでうまく流れに乗れば、数週間後には火星圏へ出る
I guess, to be fair, if Blue adds anything to the situation, it's leadership that Hojo doesn't have.
時間はかかるけど、一番安全な方法だと思うんだ。
わかった。その意見を取り入れよう。俺たちはツバイと違うからな。
助かるよ。
よし、操船ソリッド組め。急げよ。
I kind of feel like the element here is that Blue just wants leadership. He doesn't actually care about anything.
わかりました。
Like, he doesn't have an agenda.
助かる見込みがあるなら協力は惜しみません。ただし、暴力行為だけは絶対にやめて。
お前がリーダーか？
いいえ。
私こそがリーダーであり、艦長のルキさん本当。
これからお前が指揮だ。
わかったわ。
それからお前、名前は？
相葉コーチ。
ブリッジで働け。隣の女は身の回りの世話だ。
はい。
It's a weird call. I mean, the Fina caretaker thing.
なんだよ。感謝ぐらいしろよ。
Oh, that's never gonna fucking happen.
ニュートリの減少、通信機器通常回復まで6時間。主要機器のサスペンドを解除します。対放射線レベル D1 に移行。総員防護服のシールドオープン。
容体は D3 レベルの放射線を浴びていますが、注意はかろうじて。ただ2人とも全身に拷問の跡があり、少尉はそれが直接の。
Yeah, they've been fucking beaten.
周囲と会話を許可を出したくはないのですが、制御を外してくれ。わかりました。イリジウムシステムとのリンク、軌道位置のコンテンツが成功しました。シア4の気流データから裏地下の移動ポイントを算出しろ。奴が流されると回線が回復次第本体に連絡。リベールを預けた後。
Yeah, if they can figure out how to calculate their course of being swept, then I guess it's entirely possible everyone else can figure out where they're going.
おはようございます。私は第2種航中課のフー・ナムチャイ。今ブリッジからリバイアス管内全域に放送しております。皆さんに聞いていただきたいのは、リバイアスを操船しているツバイが重要な情報をいくつも隠していたことです。事実を知った私は皆さんに報告すればと思い、こうしてマイクの前に立ちました。
マジかよ。
まず私たちは現在ゲドルトのシア4-360のポイントを航行しています。謎の敵対勢力から逃げるためです。お分かりですか皆さん。私たちは2回も敵の攻撃を受けていたのです。それをツバイは公表しませんでした。またリーベデルタを破壊した工作員2名を拉致したこと、それを見殺しにしたこと、リバイアスに武装があること、それを使おうとして数名の生徒を無断で呼び出したこと、全てが公表されていなかったのです。これはスパイの特権思想がもたらした越権行為に他なりません。私はリバイアスを安全かつ
I still believe this is why we're in the right on this.
私に分かるわけないじゃん。
メンバーは私フー・ナムチャイとエアーズ・ブルー、看護科の クリフ・ケイとミシェル・ケイ、技術家のソン・ドッポ、デュー・ギール、そして第二子甲虫家の相葉浩二です。
Well, Koji's part of the gang now, I guess.
定期的に端末へオープンします。
つい
皆さんの通常の作業に若干の変更はあると思いますが、それ以外は今までと
完全に悪者だな。
でも嘘はついてないよ。
この裏切り者め。
その単語はルクスン、君たちが言われることになると思うよ。
Fucking, I know, I hate Charlie. Yeah, fucking Charlie. I still side with his Y. The problem with his Y is they should have fucking learned to lock the goddamn door.
Junshite 2隻大破。止まらぬな。この上さらにバイタルガーダーまで使われては撃つ手がありません。やはり下村たちが使っているのでは。調査は引き続き行っていますが、今のところ網にはかかってきません。だがブラティカはあそこまで操船できるものとなると。
Okay. So I couldn't remember this is the group that's calling it Bratica or this is the group calling it the Ryvius.
なんとしても抑え込む。
We gotta add them to the board now, I guess.
早すぎる。常識が邪魔をする。
So I can remember which group is which.
覚悟を決める必要があるようだ。最悪ならインプルスを呼び戻す。
I'm gonna guess the Impulse is another group like the Bratica.
自分だけ助かるつもりなんじゃないの？最低よそんなの。働いてるの馬鹿らしくなってきた。
どうか落ち着いてください。先ほど監視役であるフーナムチャイから各チームのリーダーに事情説明が行われましたのでご存知だと思いますが、現在リヴァイアスは火星へ向けて流されています。スバイのメンバーは通常航行のソリッドと
Remember that Koji is shit at all this though.
アルバラへ降りるためのソリッドを不眠不休で作り続けています。また説明会でリヴァイアスの武装を使えるようにすることが決まりました。必要な人員を後ほどリストアップしますのでご協力をお願いします。
よし、まずい。
はい。
お疲れ様。
ありがとう。
ホウセンさんたちのこと心配。
そうだね。少しね。
I mean, when you're with the group of people in charge, less likely to get the shit beaten out of you like you've been so far.
パパもママも楽しみにしてるのに、ジョンおじさんも説明会で言ってた。火星に行けば大丈夫だって。落ち込むとドツボだよ。顔上げて前向いて。コウジ君からメール来てる。ちょい訳ありでブリッジにいる。じゃ、は？そんだけ。コウジ君らしいね。いいな、葵は。何が？なんでコウジのやつだけブリッジにいんだよ。
I don't wish for happy things for Nyx. He is a bratty little kid. I feel bad for this kid by having to be led around by Nyx.
やめろ。
I mean, technically, he is number one.
思ったより弱腰なんだな。コーチとファイナがブリッジにいる。人質を取られてるのと一緒だ。コーチはお前のために残ったんだぞ。分かったよ。返しゃいいんだろ、借りを。
I mean, that was a lot more understanding than Yuki has ever shown ever in the entire fucking show. So he'll take it. She's losing. She is losing a lot of her dinosaur outfit. They're still in the same hallway. Also, Rafra shouldn't be in the kitchen. Yeah, revelation that Hojo isn't actually all that good. What was Blue and his gang even doing on the ship? They don't feel like they belong here.
救助まであと一息です。皆さん、カリキュラムの遵守をよろしくお願いします。
おい、部屋に戻っていいぞ。どうだ、あいつは。下手な奴よりよっぽど使える。今のところ協力的だし。少しでも逆らった。分かってるって。見せしめが必要なんだろ。
Do you though? I mean, use Hojo as an example. Dude's good for nothing.
ここにいます。
ちょっとどうしたのこれ。
突っ張りすぎなんだよこいつ。
It's hard not to feel good about seeing this. I know Blue is our like bad guy here, but fucking Yuki, man.
言うことなすこと反抗してくれちゃって、こっちがダウンしそうだよ。
Unless the idea is that if Koji steps out of place, he's gonna beat up Yuki even more?
久しぶり。ずっとすれ違いだったもんね。寂しかったとか？寝てるし。
Let him sleep. The hard place.
女の子なんだと思ってるのよあいつらは。どうするのこれから。総専用ソリッドは作っておくに越したことないでしょ。まだ何かあるってこと？あった時のため。私は救助が来るのを信じてる。信じてる。
ユキ？なんでだよ。なんでここにいんだよ。
You're assigned to the same group? Why wouldn't he be?
何見てんだよ。協調性のない間抜け面がおかしいんだよ。俺はヘコヘコしてばっかの兄貴とは違う。自分の意思で行動してる。
Get yourself fucking killed.
ただのバカじゃねえか。兄貴には絶対真似できねえよ。欲しいもん取られてヘラヘラしてるようなやつが。
In the notes, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that scene because I gotta figure out what the hell's going on there.
コウジ君、起きてる？そろそろブリッジに戻らないと。
あ、わかった。なんだよ、その女。お前には関係ないだろ。行こう。
I mean, at least there's some confidence going on here. I appreciate that.
葵はどうなんだよ。みんな起きろ！桐内が大きくなってる。なんだって？
What, like going to Seer 5?
何かが来る。何がって何？
Oh, Impulse. It'd be Impulse, obviously.
F345 で解析できる。わかった。
あんたね、そこはもうブルーの席なのよ。
一つ聞いていいかな。
Well, if Blue's not here, that would have been empty.
どうしたらいい？
Nobody would have been there for the alert.
忘れることなんてできないわ。
そうか。
過去は断ち切るしかない。自らの手で。西部アルネの教え、私のふるさとチタニアの守りが。
断ち切る。
Oh, so it is a religious thing.
みんなも同じ気持ちを抱えてるわ。
君も？
もちろんよ。
Just cut that music right there. Just cut it with the action shit.
イカの形をしている。
バカじゃないの。
しかしイカなんだ。
寝ぼけてんじゃねえ。そんなデータは今すぐ消せ。俺が風に照らされる。
I'm sorry. Are you fucking dumb? I guess he just can't respect any of the groups specifically. It's always the people in them. How the hell did he get behind her to fall under her? Oh, come on, don't tell me something stupid like Aoi broke up with Yuki to be with Koji, and that's why Yuki's so fucking pissed. Okay, and why did Purple Girl care about that? Again, it's the element that Purple Girl seems to be like an association with everybody. Because I keep thinking back to the earlier episodes where Purple Girl is kind of teleporting between everyone's like rooms and locations, and then saying shit that very much seems to apply to each one of them. But I don't know what that's about. And I guess it really applies. Sorry, I'm spotty trying to go around in my head here about Aoi, Koji, Fina, and Yuki. Because it very much seemed that Flashback to the Past was an Aoi, Yuki, Koji relationship thing.
ゲドル島を抜けて火星圏にたどり着いた俺たちを待ち構えていたのは火星甲虫艦隊だった。知らなかった。相手が味方なのか敵なのかも、未来のことも今この瞬間のことさえも俺たちは何も知らなかった。
Review the Earth. Ironically, I was just have a whole commentary about this. The fact that they introduced to us at the beginning of the episode that the event from 80 years ago that created the Gadult also just killed 1.7 billion people on Earth and destroyed the Southern Hemisphere is an element of supreme world building that indicates to us that we do not know what the hell is going on in the world around us, right? So literally they could just introduce anything to us about what the world is like, and it will just be the thing that we have to accept, which means that every time we have to keep our eyes open for what the hell is going on. Because now my idea are Mars and Earth fighting? Because I said review the Earth, and my idea is, well, maybe Earth and Mars are fighting, and that's why we have two different organizations that are about capturing or destroying this ship. Because if this is like an experimental ship from one side, then of course the other side would be after it. So the Orbital Safety Bureau, I forget what they're called, maybe they represent like the military of one side, and we haven't gotten a name for the other group, so, you know, whatever. The ones that call the ship Ryvius, because the ship on its own monitors calls itself Ryvius, so obviously they would be the associated side, but we see less of them, more of the group that Conrad is associated with. So the idea in my head now is that if the next episode's called We Didn't Know Anything, and they're heading towards Mars, that maybe the OSB is a thing from Mars, and that the fleet that they're going to encounter there, obviously they're not going to reach safety because we're too early into the show. So that has to be an enemy fleet. And if that's the case, that must be the OSB, meaning that Earth would be the friendly side. I mean, we know that there's other places people live, moons of Uranus, moons of Jupiter, so it could be possibly something else too. This could be a sorry, mind blank. Expanse. This could be an expanse situation. You know, you get the Belters, you get the inner system, you get the outer system. Could be one of those where it's like some mysterious third party or a party yet unidentified amongst a bunch of military political movements being put on display by organizations we already know exist. So we could still be learning the world building and organization of the universe of the show and not even know the stuff that the people that live in the show are also not knowing. There are levels here to the way that they're doing the world building, which is both confusing. But if you watched me react to, say, Macross 7, where I felt like I was being shotgunned with pellets of world building, not enough to know the whole picture, but enough to be able to guess at what was going on, I don't really have a problem with that if the payoff is good. And you guys are in the comments saying that the show is good and it's going somewhere, so I've got to believe you, and I'm hoping that we get there. So I don't have a problem with trying to put it all together this way, so long as it happens, right? So yeah, that's a bit of a ramble. There's a lot in the episode that I just kind of didn't like grapple onto, and I'm going to have to take notes on it. So I think I'm just gonna wait and come back in next episode with said notes. So for now, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?